Hello, I'm Yuri, and welcome to Discover History. Today, rather than talking about an event in history, we'll go for a run in the 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis. There, we'll consume copious amounts of rat poison and get chased by rabid dogs. But before we get to the fun part, let's set the scene. The day of the marathon, the weather was at a nice, humid 32 degrees, and the track was laid out on dusty roads where organizers' cars would kick up ridiculous amounts of dust. Sounds like optimal conditions, right? Well, it gets worse, as the only source of water along the track was a well 17 kilometers in. The conditions alone are probably enough to make this marathon the worst of all time, but the shenanigans of the athletes make this whole event just 10 times better. Besides the fact that less than half of them even showed up, 14 out of 32 to be exact, the ones that showed up were something from a different planet. We'll start from a brave Cuban postman, which had fundraised his trip only to gamble it all away in New Orleans, and proceeded to hitchhike there. So, athlete number 1 is a Cuban hobo which ran in his street clothes. Interesting. Surprisingly, he was doing quite well, but he was also quite hungry, as he hadn't eaten in nearly 40 hours, and so he decided to stop in an orchard to eat some apples. Of course, I wouldn't mention this fact if something hadn't gone wrong, and something was wrong with the apples. They were rotten from the inside, and so our brave postman felt a bit sick, but no worries, a quick nap later, and he managed to finish in 4th place. Another competitor, by the name of Lords, dropped out of the race 14 kilometers in and hitched a ride back to the stadium. Alright, so he just dropped out and all is fine, right? Alright? Nope. The car broke down and he just decided to jump back in. He ran through the finish line, met President Roosevelt's daughter, and was about to be awarded gold until someone snitched him out. An honorable mention is a Frenchman, Albert Corey, who showed up with the wrong documents and wasn't allowed to compete. And by saying not allowed to compete, I mean not allowed to compete for France, but for the US? Sure, why not? He even won them silver. The marathon also included the first 2 black Africans to compete in the Olympics, and while they were portrayed as 2 savage tribesmen, in reality they were just 2 South African students. They finished 9th and 12th respectively, and that's that. Just kidding, of course. One of them was chased nearly 2 kilometers off course by rabid dogs. From cheaters to rotten apples and rabid dogs, who was the brave soul to win this marathon? Glad you asked. It was a fellow by the name of Thomas Hicks. Although he wanted to quit, his trainers had a different idea. The idea? Well, it was feeding him rat poison, forcing him to drink alcohol, and refusing him water. As you can imagine, being fed literal poison and being so severely dehydrated is far from ideal, and by the end of the race, Hicks was so delirious that his trainers just carried him through the finish line while he was shuffling his feet in the air as if he was still running. He was awarded gold, finishing in a record slowest ever marathon pace of 3 hours and 28 minutes, and never raced again. I wonder why. I believe it is safe to say the Olympics have come a long way since then, and that is most likely for the better. Although it would be entertaining to see Usain Bolt breaking world records while drunk. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. Thank you all very much for watching Discover History.